Hi friends, today we are going to discuss an estimate of Arnold's greatness as critic, his achievements and contribution as a critic of literature. Opinions of critics. Matthew Arnold's fame as a critic rests largely on his essays in criticism, first and second series. They are important landmarks in the history of literary criticism. The greatest of the Victorian critics is a curious mixture of strength and weakness, of great merits and of demerits equally great. That's why he has been eulogized as well as condemned by critics equally competent. In recent times, T.S. Eliot has spoken for all those who are not willing to accept him as a great critic. He calls him a propagandist, a salesman, a clever advertiser, rather than a great critic. He finds him lacking in the power of connected reasoning at any length. Arnold's faults are great, but equally great are his merits and achievements. He is the most imposing figure in Victorian criticism. In his own day and for years afterwards, he was venerated and respected almost like Aristotle. After him, the cry for years was, Arnold has said so, says R. A. Scott. For half a century, Arnold's position in this country was comparable with that of the Venerable Greek in respect of the wide influence he exercised, the mark he impressed upon criticism, and the blind faith with which he was trusted by his votaries. In certain respects, continues the learned critic, Arnold is superior to Aristotle. Aristotle knew none but the classics of Greeks, the only literary models available to him, whilst Arnold, having the literature of many nations and ages before him, was limited only of his own choice to the best that is known and thought in the world. Further, Arnold repudiated the idea that the critic should be an abstract lawgiver. Both of these considerations are important, but there is another fact which arrests our attention. In that body of Arnold's works, dealing with critical principles which has most affected the public mind and has passed into currency as his distinctive doctrine. He is dealing with a function of criticism did not concern Aristotle at all. Aristotle shows us the critique in relation to art. Arnold shows us the critique in relation to the public. Aristotle dissects a work of art while Arnold dissects a critic. The one gives the principle which govern the making of a poem, the other the principles by which the best poems should be selected and made known. Aristotle's critics honor Aristotle's critics once allegiance to the artist, but Arnold's critics has a duty to society. He is a propagandist tilling the soil so that the best ideas may prevail, making an intellectual situation of which the creative power can profitably avail itself, to prepare a social atmosphere which will stimulate the artist to make the best that has been written familiar of the public. This was the new task of criticism. It was to be a contribution to the problem of perfection of how to live. Arnold discussed and defined more clearly than any other writer before him the relation of the critic of literature to the society in which he lives. Herein lies his distinctive contribution to the study of critical principles. Arnold's criticism is of great historical significance. He provided the classical resistance, the counter-check quarrelsome to the prevalent but degenerate and decadent romantic criticism. In his reaffirmation of the classical norm of the importance of the fable or action of high seriousness, of the grand style, of the importance of the study of the ancients as models of excellence and perennial sources of inspiration. He did not invaluable service to the cause of literature and literary criticism. As George Watson points out, he is the great gainssayer of criticism, the most insistent and professional of nonconformists.